Why does the flood story include dates? Are these important or necessary? Let's think about it. Throughout the year of the flood, the Bible provides many points of interest along the way. In Genesis chapter 7, for instance, verse 11 says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." Verse 17, "Now the flood was on the earth 40 days. Verse 24, "And the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. You can actually use these numbers to put them all together to figure out an itinerary of what was happening on the ark, what was happening to the earth. How long did it take? How long was Noah on the boat? Yeah, you can find charts online, but I find it's a fruitful exercise if you do it yourself. You may even discover something along the way. In this video, I want to look at the first 4 verses of chapter 8, specifically with verse 4. Genesis 8, 1-4 says, "Then God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the animals that were with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were also stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters receded continually from the earth. At the end of the 150 days the waters decreased." And then verse 4, "Then the ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat." So what's so neat about that? If you're thinking July 17th, no, that's not correct. This is not using any of the pagan calendars that we've come to know and use. It's actually an interesting study to look at all the ways we've implemented pagan ideas and naming conventions in our modern culture. Probably future videos coming on that. Now, when God created the world, He created the days and named them by number. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and then the Sabbath. Well, He numbered the months as well. It was month 1, month 2, month 3. You get the idea. Well, we know that the 7th day is the day of rest. Well, the ark came to rest in the 7th month. Aha! Is that a coincidence? But when is the 7th month? Do you know that God actually changed the calendar? When God instituted Passover, He switched the months around a little bit. He moved the first month to spring instead of autumn. This is in Exodus 12, the first 2 verses. "Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, 'This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.'" You still see evidence of this today. If you take the Jewish customs, there's a Jewish New Year for the civil calendar and a Jewish New Year for the religious calendar. Exodus 12 is the reason why. The original New Year was what is now called Rosh Hashanah. It just means head of the year. God moved it to spring. Why? Well, let's take some time to think about it. Man was created at the beginning. But what happened shortly after man was created? We sinned. We fell. It was the fall of man during the fall. I'm sure it was scary watching the leaves as they changed color and then they started to drop from the trees and then all the flowers were withering away, and which led into winter when everything seems dead. But then in spring, there's new life. Flowers bloom, trees blossom. This is the time of Passover. Passover points to Jesus. Jesus brings new life. Jesus is reversing the curse. He brings rest. So what was once the 7th month has now become the 1st month. And what was once the 1st month has now become the 7th month. If this all sounds a bit confusing, here's a little calendar thing to help you figure it out. This means that at the time of Noah, we're before Moses, so we'd still be using the original calendar. So the 17th day of the 7th month would actually today be the 17th day of the 1st month, which is the same month that Passover is in. So let's look at Exodus 12, 3-6. "Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, Let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. So you picked out your Passover lamb on the 10th, and then you killed it on the 14th at the end of the day. Now we know the Passover lamb is a picture that points to Christ. But you could do a whole study on this, and we don't have time for that in this video. So we'll use Paul's cheat sheet. 1 Corinthians 5:7 says, "For indeed Christ, our Passover, was sacrificed for us." So Jesus died on the 14th of the first month, which was the 14th of the 7th month back in Noah's day. But he didn't stay dead, did he? He rose how many days later? 3. 3 plus 14 equals 17. Maybe you don't see it yet, but what we see here is that the ark came to rest on the very same day that millennia later, Jesus would rise from the dead. Jesus' resurrection brought rest to those who were trusting safely in his ark of salvation. Again, Genesis 8:4, "Then the ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat." And what does Ararat mean? The curse reversed. You see, Jesus is pictured and prophesied everywhere in the Old Testament. His plan to sacrifice himself for you and for me, to die for our sins, to be buried and raised again, was etched into the very fiber of creation. That's something we should think about.